Welcome back. We're going to do a talk on certain paintings. We're going to use our photographs. So we're going to do this photograph and we're going to do this painting, and we're going to talk about how you created this from this photograph. But I wanted you to tell us about the photograph.
Sure.
And where this was taken, and the emotion it invokes on me is ancient, primal, centuries old, if not hundreds of centuries old.
Sure,
That's what this makes me feel.
We called this piece Inner Glow, a little obvious there. This is a slot canyon in Utah, and I've got a little story to go along with it, but I love the slot canyons. I love going into these places in the Southwest. This one happens to be on BLM land, so that's Bureau of Land Management, so it's public land, but it's surrounded by private land, so it's actually not accessed and it's not well known. And I know somebody that knows somebody that's able to get in there. Spent a full day in there with my wife and my son, and we explored and we crawled over all the chalk stones and looked for all the nooks and crannies, and you know, sometimes it's this wide, sometimes it's wider, sometimes it's only this wide and you have to shimmy through. But you know, what I was looking for was all these lines and these textures, and waiting for the perfect moment for the sun to reach a certain point, and when it does, the reflected light bounces in off of the sandstone into these canyons, and it'll light up these walls like it's radioactive. And so these are viewed very spiritually by the Navajo, this is their ancient lands, and they have reference for these slot canyons. And so what you were saying in the beginning, I think, is very apropos. But they are very unique to the world, and just really, really cool places.
Well, they're beautiful, and it's a beautiful piece. So you got to work with this beautiful piece as your inspiration, Savannah. So I'm going to step out of the way so you can talk about how you took this and created this.
Yes, so when we were going through all of the pictures that Darron had taken, this was one we automatically knew this is what I wanted to play with, purely because of the rich color and the angular lines. So for me, the trick was, how many lines can I show where you still have the same movement, but it's still simplified? Because my paintings always stay a little bit more simple so that they can be more bold and they're not overpowering. So I really enjoyed the line work here and trying to create that inner glow, like the name of the piece. So I did change the coloring slightly because I wanted the first thing that you looked at to be the center of the piece, and then you kind of worked your way out. But then I also wanted to capture that rocky texture, so you have very subtle places where you get this grit, like sand texture in it, but it's not everywhere, so you it's not heavy. And then I really wanted to balance the piece out because it was a little warm, and so I added this very subtle blue to mimic the rocks kind of zigzagging in there. So the idea is that you have a lot of movement here in the piece so that you don't just get stuck here. It drives you kind of here, there, back up here. So the idea is that you're traveling when you're looking at the piece, kind of mimicking Darron's journey in the canyon itself of zigzagging here, zigzagging there, and finally stumbling across this moment of the sun coming through. And for me, this took so many layers of there's orange. I started with orange and then yellow and then red and then back to orange. So there's a lot of layers that really build up that subtle color. So there's richness behind it.
Which is unique that you say that, because if you were there, you would see all of those layers of color that are constantly shifting and changing in the light.
Exactly.
But the sandstone is made up of these oranges and browns and purples and different striations of the sandstone. So it's very cool. And we did a lot of different sizes here in our show. This was one that Savannah said, this needs to be big.
Yep.
And I felt like that too, because I wanted, you know, the viewer, the person looking at this piece, to feel like they could almost be walking into this type of space.
It needed to be big.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's true too. When we were talking off camera, we were saying that we've had a couple people that have come in and to purchase both of the pieces. that they loved the contrast of the photo and the painting,
Sure.
and to be able to have them in the same room, maybe opposite of each other, or even together with each other on the same wall, depending on if you have that space. I think that's an excellent and great idea to be able to purchase them.
That's part of the
same time.
idea. What a story that tells when you have, people come over to your place of business or your home and they kind of do a double take, and there's a story behind this piece and then there's a story behind that piece, and they're married together, but they're not the same.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is really neat.
Exactly. Well, thank you guys. Thanks for sharing, and stay tuned because there will be more sharing to be had.